Hello everyone. I hope you all are safe and healthy. Today in 11th Commerce Economics, we are going to discuss chapter number 1 Economics and Introduction. We have discussed first part in which we have discussed what is economy, the definition given by different authors. Adam Smith has given some definition, Robinson has given some definition. Then Paul Samuelson has given, Marshall has given some definition. So we have discussed four different definitions which is given by different authors. As well as we have seen what is the importance of economy when starting with the ancient India, and then what is the importance when it comes to the Western countries. Okay, so we have discussed these things in previous part. Now we are starting with the new points. Let's see the first one. One, that is economic activity. Now what is called as economic activity? The activity which is performed with the purpose of getting benefit. Okay, now you are doing any kind of business that is only for the benefits. That is only for the benefits or to generate some incomes. So whatever we are doing to generate any kind of income, that is considered as economic activity. But it should involve what things? It should involve exchanging of goods and services. What is means by good? That means the goods which are physical in nature, and services, that means the things which are intangible, that is not in physical in nature. So both the things or any of them should be included when we are exchanging the things. As well as it involves some cost when you are doing something that involves some cost. So these all are considered as an economic activities. Now these are some examples of economic activities, starting with the first one, eating in a restaurant. You order something, they will give you the food, they will serve you, and finally you are eating and you are paying the money. That is called as economic activity. Why? Because you have paid something in return. Same way, watching movie in a theater. You are going to, for example, you are going to PVR cinemas where you are earning your earned money you are giving for the movie, and you are watching the movie. That is the benefit you are getting. And ultimately what benefit they have got? They have got some incomes from your money. Same way, work in one's own farm. What we are doing? We are working somewhere, someone's farm. So that is also considered over here as an economic activity. And the fourth one, that is get employed in a school as a teacher. Working in a school, that is work of profession, kind of a profession, but what we are getting, in which we are generating some money from that. We are delivering our lectures. For that lecture we are getting some money. So that is also considered as an economic activity. So these are some examples of economic activity. Now let's move to the next point, that is non-economic activity. Now, what is non-economic activity? The activity which is performed without the specific purpose of obtaining economic goals, that is considered as non-economic activity. What does it mean? Here, the benefits are there, the incomes are there. But when it comes to the non-economic activity, we are not dealing with the benefits. We are not willing to earn profit from this. Okay, it involves exchange of goods on both the sides, but we are not dealing with the earning purpose. Okay, now let's take an example. The activities which is done in the consideration of love and affection. For example, you are staying at your home and your mother is preparing some chapatis for you. Do she take some money from you? No, she is not going to take the money. What she is doing? She is working for the love and affections. She is working for the love and affections towards the show respect towards your love and everything. Same way, the charity work. When we are doing something for the charity, we are not dealing as an economic activity. We are not going to take money from them. So this considered as a non-economic activity. Now next one, the microeconomics and the macroeconomics. Basically, the economic analysis, the study of individual economic units as well as the study of the whole unit. When you are dealing with the individual one, then it is considered as a microeconomics. When you are dealing with the whole economic study, then it is considered as a macroeconomic study. So basically, the economy is divided into two parts. One, that is microeconomy, and second, that is macroeconomy. Now, first, microeconomy. Now, what is microeconomy? So, it's a study of individual units of the economy. That means it is going to study only the individual units behavior, not the whole economy. It is going to study. It is going to study for the individual person only. Let's take an example. demand analysis of a consumer, what is the supply analysis for the particular unit. These things are going to be analyzed on a simple basis. That means only for a particular purpose, for a single unit, then it is considered as a microeconomics. It has some specific principles and it's showing the behavior of individual units only. That means for individual units, you have to consider microeconomics. Understood? Next one, that is macroeconomy. When you are dealing with the whole economy, that is considered as a macroeconomy. Let's see this. Macroeconomy analysis has helped to give the principles for resource management to increase the national income, reduce employment, poverty, and inflation. National income, that means the whole nation's income. Same way, unemployment. Unemployment, it's a world's issue. So this is considered for the whole economy. Same way, poverty, India's poverty. We are dealing with the whole India. Inflation, deflation. Okay. Then so many issues are there. Growth rate of the Indian economy, then poverty rate of our economy, unemployment rate, what is our growth rate, what is our GDP, what is our GNP. All these things are considered in macroeconomy. So the behavior of individual economic units impact the macroeconomic parameter, and the macroeconomic parameter impact the decision of the economic units. That means when it comes to the microeconomy, it is only dealing with the individual person. When the individual's demand is not going to satisfy, we are dealing with the macroeconomy. And finally, the decisions of individual units can be taken with the parameter in consideration of macroeconomy as well. Now, so this is the difference between the microeconomy and macroeconomy. Let's go to next one. When it comes to the presentation of the data in economics, basically there are three methods. One that is descriptive method, second that is by the way of data tables, and third that is by the way of graphs. Now what is considered as descriptive method? Where you are writing everything, writing all the points, that is considered as a descriptive method. Second, that is by way of data tables. Here you can see that this is the data table where the price of the commodity is written, the demand for the particular product is written. When the price is 20 rupees, the demand is 20 units. When the price is decreased, the demand is increased to 40. When the price is decreased again, that is 10 rupees, the demand has come to 60 rupees, and the price of that particular product will become 5, then the demand for that units will become 80. So this is the data table. By this way, you can also show the all the information. Now next, that is by the way of graph. Here you can see that the graph. So afterwards, here on x-axis, that means on independent variable, the things are written, that is units 20, 40, 60, 80, and 100. These are the units, and these are the price 5 to 25. So on 20 we are purchasing 20 units, on 15 we are purchasing 40 units, on 10 we are purchasing 60 units, on 5 we are purchasing 8 units. So it is easily to be understood that when there is decrease in price, there is increase in demands unit. So by this way we can also understand. So these are basically three methods. One that is descriptive, where you are writing everything, that is called as descriptive method. Second, by data table, you can create a table which you are seeing over here. And third, that is by the way of graph, you will create a graph. So these are the basically three parameters when the presentation comes related to the data of economics. Now next, what is the importance of statistical information in economy? Okay, now basically when these two subjects are correlated with each other, when it comes to the thing of economy, the statistics should be there. First, statistic information supports or confirms a principle which is given. Second, give an idea about the changing trends of economic parameter. Third, to make the comparative study very easy. And fourth one, to make the precise presentation of facts. These are the four different benefits or four different importance of statistical information. Now let's see in detail. First one, that is statistical information supports to confirm a principle. Now, for example, someone has given some principles, and how we are going to test that? We are going to test that with the help of some data. So, what we need to do? We need to collect the observations, and afterwards we have to use some scientific or statistical tools, and we have to correlate the principles and the theories with the actual facts and figures. Okay, so first you understood. Now let's go to the second one. Gives an idea about the changing trend of economic parameters. When you have the economic data, you can get the idea of the directions how the work is going on. For example, let's take an example of coronavirus. Every day we are going to see the trend, how in which country how they are working in which country. For take an example of Anand. Right now there are 80 total number of 80 positive cases, and there are only 70 people are discharged. That means only 10 people are at the active stage. So by this way you can understand that almost 70 people has discharged. That means 90 percentage of the work has done. So this is the benefit when you are connecting these both together. Next one, to make the comparative study very easy. Same, let's take an example of that coronavirus. We can do the study of different times on different periods. From the month of February, how many positive cases are there? In the month of March, how many are there? In the month of April, how many are there? And in the month of May, how many positive cases are there? So on the basis of time period, we are going to study this. Same across the region. That means in what is the situation in Gujarat, what is the situation in Maharashtra, what is the situation in Kerala, across the nation, what is the situation in India, what is the situation in China, what is the situation in USA. So we can compare that. So it becomes very easy to compare when there is a use of statistics in economics. Next one, to make the precise presentation of facts. Finally, what we are doing ultimately when there is a subjects like inflation, deflation, agriculture product, regional income, these are the so much deeper projects, and we have to analyze that in comparative way. So when we are writing in a descriptive manner, that becomes very difficult. But if we use presentation like this, so it becomes very easy to understand. So statistics help us in this way also. Now final, the last one, that is some requisite aspects in collecting the statistical information and for presenting it in a diagram or a graph. When we are preparing diagram or graph and where we are collecting some statistical information, what aspects we need to consider when we are collecting the data? First one, that is source of information or the data. The source should be reliable and universally acceptable. You have to ensure that before collecting the data. If the data is wrong, all the information which we have collected will become wrong. So finally what we need to do? We need to collect the reliable data only, and the data which are universally acceptable. When you collect the data of WHO from the website of WHO, then it is universally acceptable. So you have to collect that kind of data. Same way, the clarity regarding the dependent and independent variable should be there. When the independent variable is that, you have to denote it on a x-axis, and when there is a dependent variable, you have to show it on a y-axis. This you have to remember every time. Okay. Now, when you are examining related with the production, this is an example. Examining related to production with different time periods, then that time period will be on the y-axis. And when you are comparing the production, that will be on x-axis. Remember this. So this will help you when you are collecting any kind of data. And the last one, that is selecting the appropriate scales. In order to obtain a systematic graph with the clarity and appropriate size, proper scale must be measured. When you are preparing any kind of graphs, you have to measure the scale in proper way. For example, 1 centimeter is equal to 10,000 unit, 1 centimeter is equal to 1,000 unit, 1 centimeter is equal to 5 years. You have to take proper scale. If you made any kind of mistake at the time of taking scales, then the graph will become wrong. And the whole statistical work which we have done for the analysis of economics will become wrong. Okay, so this is it for the session. I hope you have liked, share, and subscribe to the channel. Please circulate the video as many as you can, and the students who want to take admission in 11th commerce, please share this video that can help them to understand economics in better way. I hope you have liked it. That's all for today. This is the second session. That's all for today. Thank you so much. Jai Hind.